Do you guys think we're gonna get canceled on this?
I would love to. I think so.
You'd love to get canceled? Are you comparing us to Joe Rogan on the first episode, so?
Well, we can aspire.
I guess that's true. Welcome to The Flip Side, a podcast where we bring you lighthearted and good-natured debates about a variety of interesting topics, ranging from politics to social and cultural issues.
For this introductory episode, what better thing to debate about than the purpose and goals of the podcast itself?
We hope this conversation will give you an idea of what our plans are and what you can expect from us moving forward.
All right, now to introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm Julian. I'm from Houston. I'm an economics major. I love reading and writing and everything outdoors.
I'm Hussein. I'm a sophomore business major at UT Austin. I'm originally from Africa. When I moved to Houston, I'm into finance consulting, watching sports and playing sports, and I'm just really glad to be here right now.
My name is Free. I was born in India. I lived in Singapore for 15 years. I'm a biology major, sophomore at UT Austin. Now I'm in Austin, Texas. I like sports as well. I'm soccer, big fan. Yeah.
My name is Carson. I'm a computer science major, very involved in robotics research right now at UT. I also make video games, and I'm not just interested in computer science. I also like learning about pretty much anything, just learning new things generally. So cool. That's why I'm excited to be on this podcast, because we're going to be doing a lot of that, I think.
Yeah.
So with that, we can lead into kind of why people should listen to this podcast and what we think is going to be unique about it.
Okay.
So right now, you can tell me if you guys agree, but I think the purpose of this podcast is going to be breaking down the echo chambers that we've seen being facilitated by social media right now with the algorithms. Only goal is keeping you on the platform and serving things that you already agree with, basically, because that's what everyone is most interested in. People immediately shy away from anything that they disagree with.
So you're saying we're going to cover two sides then?
So we're going to focus on covering all sides of each issue, and in like a civilized manner that we don't often see these days.
You think we can do that?
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. And the goal is going to be reaching common ground and finding the truth instead of just scoring points against each other, as you always see on cable news and on these short TikTok clips that go viral.
So this would be for politics, social, and cultural issues, I guess, right? Everything.
Right. Anything that we can also talk about that a little bit later, how far or where we're going to draw the line between controversial issues and between politics and social and cultural. But it seems like we're all interested in anything that is controversial. And also, I think that has some sort of real world impact, so that it actually makes sense that we take both sides of it and explore all
one thing that we're going to try our best to do in this podcast is to give both sides enough time and enough energy, because we kind of see this especially in news these days, that one side tends to take over like a certain point of view, and it becomes unfair. But we're going to try to balance that out.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to be on us, because so many shows, the root of that is because the corporation that oversees them, or the hosts themselves of these political and cultural shows, they always have some sort of bias. And I think we can set ourselves apart because we have 4 hosts and we have a very diverse set of perspectives, I think. And when we don't have disagreements, then we're going to do our best to
represent both sides.
Yes.
Multiple sides.
And that might involve playing devil's advocate for the other side and bringing their perspectives in, even if we don't share it ourselves.
Yeah, and I think building off of that, all 4 of us are college students, and I'm really into research. I'm sure Carson is. I'm sure you guys are as well.
For sure.
So I think one thing that I'm especially going to try hard during the course of this podcast is try to dig up new studies, and especially studies that you probably wouldn't expect. So different sides of this, maybe different solutions that maybe we haven't thought of before, or at least are worth talking about. So that's what I'm going to try to bring to the table.
No, 100%. I think we'll all try and be unbiased. I think that's the main thing, but I think it works out because we're going to have 4 different sides, or maybe the same sides, but we have different viewpoints, so it'll work out, I think.
And also, since we're all college students, we aren't going to know everything, obviously.
Yeah.
So the research part becomes very important. So we're going to do our best, even if we're not experts, obviously, to bring in expert opinions and use facts whenever possible. Cite our sources, probably.
So bear with us, because we'll try our best to.
Yeah, a bit of a disclaimer there.
Yeah, I mean,
Who knows, we would
whenever
bring
I
up-
personally do research, I try to look best at numbers because that's something you can't really dispute.
Right.
It's like telling a story or arguing with numbers, and that's that's personally what I'm gonna try to do. I don't know about you guys though.
I think I bring in more of a emotional and social viewpoint. I think I base a lot of stuff on that. Obviously numbers as well, but I think I'll bring that mindset.
So you're just
into
going to
it.
go off of your intuition. You don't, instead of doing the work for the research.
No, I didn't say that. I said I'll
I think
bring.
he says he wants to talk about how this affects people
Yeah,
on a personal
emotionally.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
I'll
course.
bring
Which is
that.
different
That
because it's
comes
very
with
easy to look at
too.
numbers and just look at the most efficient solution.
Right.
So
Yeah.
to wrap this up, and then we can move on to, are people actually interested in unbiased conversations? So, but basically, we're gonna break out of the echo chambers by forcing people to hear both sides.
You're
of the
forcing
issue.
people?
Well, I mean, they can
Log
click off whenever they want, but by watching the video, since we have both sides and we're talking about them at the same time, so you can always say that you read one news article and then you're going to go look for one that has the opposite perspective, so that to make sure you're unbiased and have a well-rounded opinion.
So we're bringing that all in one.
But who
situation.
actually does that?
Right. Exactly.
In this case, when you're listening to us, you'll be able to hear in one session all sides at once and all the best arguments for both sides, and that'll help. You won't have to worry about going out on your own and doing all the research on your own to become informed.
Yeah, and not even both sides. I mean, a lot of times there's
multiple sides.
there's multiple sides to this. It's not only the two sides that we hear about on the news. We're trying to bring everything from maybe perspectives that we haven't heard before as well.
100%. Yeah.
So, is this a good idea for a podcast? Some people might be thinking this is kind of boring, which is fair. They'd have to be interested in these issues. But what would you say to those people? And do you think? I think most people would say they would not admit that they prefer only hearing opinions that they agree with. They would say that they like to be open-minded and want to hear unbiased conversations. But is that actually true?
Yeah, I doubt that's true, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like people just psychologically get satisfied with someone else agreeing with them, and they don't like to be threatened. So people naturally that's why the algorithm kind of satisfies you, because you're getting fed the same thing that you want to hear instead of what you don't want to hear.
Because people don't want to hear that they're wrong.
Yeah.
It's very tough for people.
If you're a Twitter
And-
user, click off before you even find this
Yeah,
podcast.
It's also just reaffirming your own views is mostly just most of the time fine, because honestly a lot of the time people don't change their minds even if you bring another viewpoint in. But I think this will help them, at least if they don't maybe agree with us, at least listen to the other side or multiple different viewpoints, right? I think that might help.
Yeah, and one thing we're going to try to do is we're going to try to acknowledge if we're wrong or if the other person is right, because that's a big responsibility thing. But yeah, whether the topic is anything controversial or anything casual that has an effect in society, we're going to try to find, I guess, a common ground at the end.
Yeah.
So, I think, this is kind of an experiment to see if people will actually be interested in it, and we'll try to make it as entertaining and as informative as we can.
Yeah.
And see how people resonate with it. But I think there is some evidence. If you look at Joe Rogan, he has a very diverse set of people on his podcast, and with his guests, they kind of explore a bunch of different sides, or mainly it's him playing devil's advocate against the guest if it's a more controversial guest.
Are you comparing us to Joe Rogan on the first episode itself?
We can aspire.
I guess that's true.
And also there's the Change My Mind series that I'm sure everyone has seen, where Steven Crowder sits down with a college student and has a debate, but he says that the goal is for it to be a just a conversation where you rationalize your opinions.
Are you talking about
those
like the TikTok clips with him on campuses and stuff?
Well, he makes YouTube videos that are like 2 hours long,
Right.
uncut, and it's just him having a conversation with one person at a time, and they get millions of views. So I think people are interested in this.
Okay.
So we'll see. So we're kind of talking about this earlier, but how do we protect ourselves from that bias, and how do we have quality conversations overall?
I think we put our personal opinions a little to the side, and maybe obviously we can't talk about stuff we don't 100% resonate with, but just maybe our opinion out of it, and maybe just give the side in there. I don't know if that makes sense.
It's like taking the emotion out of it,
Right,
or most of
right.
the emotion, because a good part of it is like, you know, you get emotional about the topic and you don't want to be wrong, so you kind of say mean things or say things that might, you know, that don't really make sense logically. So it's
Right.
we're trying to make a logical. That's like the best way to do this is logical, but with like also logical emotional. So,
Right. So the most important thing, the only way this is going to be, we're going to have good conversations, and it's not going to devolve into us yelling at each other or going around in circles and strawmanning each other, is if the goal is to find common ground, and the truth is the most important thing. So I know for me, like sometimes, like nobody likes to be wrong. I don't like to be wrong, but we can all admit that it's okay to be wrong, or we would like to admit that, and we just have to really embrace that and make our goal to find what the truth is, so that we can be correct about the issue, as correct as we can
Well,
be.
some topics they don't really have a correct
Truth,
answer.
yeah.
Though. Like
Right.
I feel like most of the topics we actually talk about won't have a good like an answer to it, because it's like it's basically what you value personally, and like also where I'm coming from or where you're coming from, how you grew up, and the values. You can't change someone's culture or someone's values, and you can't make them kind of agree to be someone that they're not. You know.
Yeah, I agree with that, because different people have different truths. That's what I've noticed. What I think is the truth, most people might not have the same opinion. So it just depends.
Yeah, I think also it's important to say that regardless of how we agree or disagree on these topics, actually implementing these topics in real life necessarily isn't always the case, because we live in
Right.
a very complex political and social
Yeah.
environment that's constantly changing. So we're also going to keep in mind that even if we reach a certain topic, like it would be nice if we had this in our society. Sometimes that's just not always the case, and we
Possible,
can't
yeah.
force these opinions on other people. Yeah, it's just the reality we live in.
100%, yeah, no, I agree with that. All right, do you guys think we're gonna get canceled in this
I would love
podcast?
to. I think so.
You'd love to get canceled?
I'm going to be playing a bit of devil's advocate, and that's
Okay.
my ultimate goal. But if we
Alright.
don't get canceled, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I definitely think that the whole thing with being canceled has definitely led to a lot of censoring, especially in our college environments. I mean, there's a lot of studies where the majority of the population feels, especially people leaning more to the right side, that they feel censored. So I feel like this is going to be a really good platform for us to actually talk a bit about these sides that generally, a lot of people, especially at UT, don't like hearing about. And if people, if we're gonna get canceled,
it is what it is.
yeah,
right?
they're welcome to try, right? But I think we're just having fun talking about these topics. It's also a podcast. They're not here. We're talking to microphones and a camera. So
Yeah, no, I got
Don't have
you.
to
That
worry
makes
about
sense.
yeah.
Assuming we don't get implicated more broadly and it doesn't extend past the podcast, but
Hopefully.
I don't think that'll
yeah.
happen, because
Yeah, that's our goal is to have a conversation, and like that's logical.
Yeah, so we're definitely not going to censor ourselves, but we are going to be respectful, of course, and that's one of our highest priorities. We know everyone comes from different backgrounds, has diverse views, so we're going to try to put ourselves in their shoes with every single issue. And as long as we do that, and as long as we're showing both sides, what a sad world would we live in if we're sitting here doing our genuine best effort to share all sides of the issue, and maybe we just discuss a more radical point of view and also defend, but also talk about the strongest arguments against it. And if we get canceled for that, then that doesn't speak well for where we're at as a society.
I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah,
Well,
I think we're not going to be afraid to speak our opinions.
Yeah,
it's
we're
like one of
not.
the things that cancel culture has kind of done is that people aren't speaking what they actually believe in because they're afraid of how they're going to be perceived by other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think a lot of times whenever people voice a certain opinion, they get met by violence. And that's not necessarily, that's not what we're trying to promote here. So we're always going to be respectful. We're going to be nice to each other. But at the same time, I don't feel like we have to stop ourselves from talking about something that we're passionate about.
Yeah. I would just say people keep in mind that we are still college students. So as much as we try to do, so maybe there are some things we don't know about.
No, of course.
If
We're
you
going to
guys
acknowledge that.
Just let us know if you don't know about it.
Yeah,
so we can,
know
talk
the disclaimer. We don't know everything.
Yeah.
So how are we going to have fun when we talk about this stuff and actually make the podcast enjoyable to listen to? Because if we're just going to be super respectful to each other, never
about
any
politics,
teasing,
right? But I'm going to be making fun of you the entire time. Just watch.
Right.
All
So
right.
it's going to be lighthearted and casual, and we'll still tease each other, but at the end of the day, we all know that
It's just jokes.
right, and we're
Yeah.
just trying to reach a common ground and make it entertaining for the viewers.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe a few dark jokes.
Dark jokes?
Dark
jokes.
Yeah.
I might get canceled for that.
Yeah.
And also, I think we should distance ourselves from the issues, but still explore them. But if we do that, then it could get less boring or more boring because everything that blows up on social media, is always people
Viral
being
clips.
super passionate
Mm.
and the most emotional stuff, even though it's not the most quality opinions because of that emotional component, but that's the stuff that goes viral. So I think we should try to dramatize each of the perspectives, even when we're playing devil's advocate. I mean, a lot of that will come through when we talk about stuff that we actually have
An
big
opinion
disagreements
on.
on.
Disagreements, yeah.
But either way, still keep it lighthearted, but kind of play into the drama to make it more interesting.
Yeah,
So.
just for the cameras.
Yeah. All right.
So go to
Is that it?
goals.
Yeah,
Goals?
to kind of wrap this up, what we can each talk about our goals for the podcast, why we are doing this personally.
Yeah, I think for me, personally, I'm kind of just I want to get into the area of being mature enough to talk about these issues and get that experience in, because I feel like we're getting to that point in our adulthood where this stuff it might actually it's gonna
Be important.
and be important in our lives. I'm trying to get more aware of what's happening around me, not just from what I believe is my side, but from the other side's point of view, and also just learning how to create an argument or debate appropriately, and doing research. I think that's going to be a really good skill for me to have in the future. But yeah, just really excited for this.
Honestly, for me, I want to just know more about, because I have a couple people here who do a little bit more research. So I like to know more about these topics, and I can learn more about it.
We'll be sure to educate you,
Yeah.
Cree.
Nah, because I would like it to be more fun, but
Yeah.
I'm quite interested in some of these topics that are coming up.
I'm also here to have fun. And
Yeah?
I think this is going to be a really good place to learn how to argue, especially keeping your cool. That's going to be a very important part of what we do.
100%, yeah.
I think a big part for me, no matter what topics we did on the podcast, just doing a podcast in general will help us all become better conversationalists and speakers. Even watching back our unreleased first episode of our practice run, there's lots of stuff you can learn just from watching yourself talk
Yeah.
for an
Yeah.
extended period of time.
Confidence and all that.
And also, like we all kind of mentioned, I want to understand the issues more fully, since all of those things we're going to be talking about mostly are going to be relevant and important in this time period. So just to help me become a more informed citizen, I mean, I have a lot of opinions right now, but every now and then when I get into a good-natured banter with somebody, they say something that I'm like, oh, didn't actually hear that perspective before. So
Yeah.
a lot of times I'm pretty confident that I'm right, but then they say something that makes me reconsider. So I'd like to actually know what I'm talking about when I talk about these issues. And in order to do that, I need to I really want to expose myself to the best that the other side has to offer.
100%. So about the topics, what do you guys think we're going to be talking about?
Well, I think it might range, but we're gonna have like one kind of format of we're gonna talk about a topic that has a lot of perspectives or how it impacts the real world. I think we're talking about like
that's the basic line.
Yeah, we're talking about like we had ideas about like the more serious things about like gun control or like any other political things.
Political stuff.
But there's also more fun topics like what was it? Do aliens exist?
Yeah,
I'm really interested in that one to get to that episode.
Space exploration.
There's like hookup culture, stuff like that.
The impact of AI right now.
Yeah. It's hella boring, but no.
So I personally am interested in.
Yeah, he's a
as
nerd.
a computer science nerd, I'm very interested in talking about future technology and how it will impact us. So that's not going to be a huge portion, but we have a couple of those episodes that I'm excited about, and also. I really like the philosophy underlines of all these political issues. So, and I think they all at the root come down to that. So I'm interested in those political issues that we can bring more philosophical and moral arguments to piece through them.
I think I'm more interested in the hookup culture, aliens, all those fun topics, huh?
The social ones.
Yeah.
Do you have any other cultural ones you want to throw out there?
I think a lot of social ones with things that happen with college students, maybe a little bit, like things in groups and friendships and all that. I think that's my more social view on it.
Right.
Yeah, those are interesting, but some of the more political ones allows us to get like deeper into it, like more, thoughts and stuff.
Julian, you got it?
I don't have any right now, but I mean, we can come back in the next episode and probably give a little preview of what's to come. Okay. So I think with that, I think
that's about it, right?
Yeah, of course.
So stay tuned for our first episode. It might be released at the same time.
Yeah, and sign up for our Patreon in order to get access to this special unreleased episode if you want to hear it. So.
But we're never releasing that episode, Julian.
Not the first one. We can't do that.
But
remember
stay buried.
Stay buried? But remember to like, comment, subscribe. We'll have links to TikTok, Instagram, obviously YouTube. You guys are already here. But I think that's about it. We'll wrap it up.
Comment what you think of our plans. We know this episode was a bit more, since it's just the introductory one, we wanted to give you all an idea of what our plans are. Could probably a little bit boring for some of you, but if you made it all the way here, that's good. So comment what you thought and what you think we should incorporate.
Any suggestions?
Yeah, any suggestions for topics? If you guys just,
and if Carson's too boring for the podcast, we could always kick him out. So just let us know.
Let us know.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys.